Well, hey there, gang. It's Mickey with CarryTrainer.com. I'm going to talk for a few minutes with you, man to man, man to woman, mano y mano. I don't know what the woman version is. One of you put it in the comments. I want to be totally truthful about something that's got my panties in a bunch, man. There is a disease in this community, this fellowship of people. Some people call it an industry. I'm going to lose some subscribers, some followers because of this, and I'm okay with it. Because if this kind of stuff can't reconcile in your brain, if you can't make sense of it, we've got nothing for each other. That said, I do not wish to live in a vacuum where the people I surround myself with only see the world as I do. In fact, I need to be challenged and have my viewpoints pushed by people that have had other life experiences, other educations, and other ways of seeing the world. That's about being a good adult, right? Doing those kinds of things. So what I want to talk about is this martial craft of firearms training. It's a very interesting thing in this space that somebody like myself, I'm going to poke fun at myself, with no real world tactical experience. I wasn't in the military. I wasn't in law enforcement. I've trained a bunch of these people, but I have no real world experience other than getting in a few fights out in the world. Now, violence has visited me and my family on numerous occasions, which I've talked about, but I see a need to train this stuff, and so I do. I've had a lot of great people mentor me, and I've listed those people as often as I can, and maybe I'll drop a few names in this video. But this is one of the few martial crafts where a person like myself can have some level of success and no real experience other than training, right? That'd be like being a doctor and never going into a hospital and actually working on a patient. That'd be like a pilot and never getting in a real plane, only a simulator. That would be like a boxer only sparring a willing opponent in a sparring match and not a real boxing match. A boxer can box and maybe he'll get concussed and possibly even die, except most boxers just end up with some bumps and bruises, right? You learn to fly, you learn to operate while having somebody else with you. The best thing we can do in the training world is take all of the perceived knowledge that we have, all of the codified collective knowledge from those who have done, put it together and try to assemble it into some meaningful form. So people call this space a community. Some people call it an industry. There's a disease in it. I recently saw somebody chastised and ostracized because they shared something about somebody being overweight and out of shape. And their point was not to impugn this person's physical body. They weren't trying to make fun of them. This person that they were talking about was in law enforcement, and I guess they could barely stand. I've never met the person. I just read what they wrote. And people jumped down this person's throat saying, how dare you write bad things about that person? At least they're out training. Now, firearms is one of the few martial arts where the only way to validate your skills is with a clock, a timer, and targets, right? You can have a man-on-man or man-on-woman competition, woman-on-woman competition, head-to-head, where time or accuracy is of the essence. And maybe if you want to get some sim guns or airsoft guns, you could do an Old West duel, or maybe you want to go Aaron Burr style and do a real duel. But it's one of the few things that it's completely arbitrary. You can just say, I'm really skilled. I know people in this space that have written books, that teach around the country, that have taught law enforcement agencies, taught at universities, have been on TV shows, and they can't shoot for crap. I've been with these people on the range, and you're like, holy smokes. And then you see the stuff that they're passing on, and most of it's garbage. And when I say garbage, I don't mean it's that I don't like it. I mean, it's just stuff that the best people in the space don't look at as valuable. What they're good at is marketing. There are tons of people in this space that market themselves very well. Social media that we're on now, most of you'd never know my name if it wasn't for free social media like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc., right? We get to put ourselves out there and people say, hey, cool, I want to give this person money. I'm going to poke fun at myself some more. I am more or less a puppet. So I've got a lot of life experience doing other things. I was involved in politics, construction. I was involved in EMS. I was involved in training hunter safety and various other things. I have a deep love for our country, our history, our Constitution, our laws, and what made it all work. I like to read about that stuff. But most everything that's been passed to me came through somebody else. Super Dave Harrington, I just spent some time with this week. He's in a real fight right now, and I'll link a video that you can go watch about that. super stud, right? Or guys like Paul Sharp, Les Keys Martoni, buddies of mine, some of them I would say contemporaries, but guys that I've learned more from than vice versa. And then many other guys. Guys like Jared Reston, Masayub, Bob Keller, and I could just keep listing and listing and listing names. There's tons of people. And many of them, true story, had things passed to them by guys like Robbie Latham or Shaw, right? Or many others. Michalik. And I could just keep naming names. We've got these guys now, some of them creating trademarks for how they hold the pistol. Stuff that's been done in the 1970s and 80s by guys like D.R. Middlebrooks, for example, a super stud. What the heck? All of us come to conclusions sometimes on our own. There's plenty of things that I teach with firearms that I kind of arrived at a conclusion after doing, or maybe I put my little spin on it, right? It's like, how many ways are there to make scrambled eggs? Your mom makes it one way, your mother-in-law, your wife, they all make them a little different, but for F's sake, it's still a scrambled egg, and you find the one that you like the best, or like a cup of coffee, right? Changing a tire. There's different ways to do it, but at the end of the day, you take one off, you put one on, you torque the lugs, and away you go. Sequencing, things like that matter. In this space, in this community, we eat our own, man. Yes, it happens in other spaces. I see it in the fitness community. I dabble in that a little bit. We see it in even the restaurant community and things like that. Humans do what humans do. We like to click up and form little herds, and we protect. In the gun space, I'm pretty good at knowing who's in what little herd, and I try to not be in a herd. And you watch these people and they're like, oh, I got my little group over here and I follow this gun messiah and I got this gun Jesus over here. And there's this group that they're really fixated on like good old fashioned tactics. And these people are really fixated on going really fast. And these guys worship some guy that was like a really decorated veteran. And these dudes follow some dude that's a competitive shooter. And they all just freaking follow these guys around with their little pockets. If you guys know anything about prison, following a dude around, holding him by the pocket because they just have to drink that Kool-Aid. And that's cool, man. You can do that. In fact, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was during a podcast. We've got the Higher Line podcast. At the end of those podcasts, I don't always do it, but I'll ask people, hey, if the people watching the podcast today never meet you, never see you, what would you leave them with? And John Frankel, he's a SBG black belt, straight blast gym. He's in charge of all of the straight blast gyms in the country of Korea. Harvard grad, super sharp dude. John looked at me and he said, you know what I'd pass on? He'd say, find something, I'm paraphrasing, that you're passionate about, that you want to learn. Find somebody really good at it and then follow them. He didn't say follow them like Charlie Manson. He was saying, go be a good student, go learn. Now, let's change gears. Marshall Craft, Mars, was the god of war. Marshall, Mars, is the craft of war, human against human. It's not pretty. This space is one of the only spaces, like I said, where you could be a knife fighter and never have been in a knife fight. Well, you know what? If you're an MMA fighter, if you're really an MMA fighter, you've walked into a cage or a ring and you've got kicked and punched and done some kicking and punching. If you practice grappling, hell, if you're a high school wrestler, which are some of the toughest dudes on the planet, you go man to man and you test. It's my skill against yours. And at the end of the clock or the end of the match, one of us is a winner, one of us is a loser. And yes, you can have draws or DQs or whatever, but for the most part, it's that simple. We've got a winner, we've got a loser based on the rule set that we agree to. Let's go. Being a shooting instructor is great. We often have lost sight, I think that we've lost sight of the real goal. The real goal is to collectively create a community of U.S. citizens that can protect our children, our families, that can protect our communities. The charter of the Second Amendment, to be well regulated, means that we truly come together as a community to protect our home, to protect our state, to protect our nation. Well regulated means disciplined, capable, able, ready. It does mean fit. It does mean fit. So when you see people poking at somebody because they're calling somebody out for maybe not being as fit as they could be, it's not the same as making fun of somebody. It's not the same as being a bully like in high school or grade school. We're educators, right? People will ask me sometimes, what do you do? I don't feel like engaging with somebody that I know is going to berate me for what I do for a living. So I say I'm in adult education. I help teach people safety. And I don't need to dig deeper. I don't need to give everybody my life story. And I don't need to explain to you or anybody else why I do that. But sometimes I'll say adult education. And that makes me feel good because personally, I barely have an education. I graduated from high school. I got a little bit of college crap at the local community college, but I have no real education other than what my mother and others have poured into me. My mom was both my parents, very avid readers. I bet if I took all the books that my parents own, you could create a small library, albeit a small Christian library, but you could create a small library and cookbooks. I mean, thousands and thousands of books. To this day, birthday, Christmas, etc., I probably will be gifted a book by my parents, which is cool because they always sign their names in it and then they write to Mickey and the date. So I can go back and I can see all of these books, all of this education, all of this knowledge. We often say knowledge is power. Well, it's also been said that knowledge is only potential power. If I go to the fuel station and I put gasoline or diesel in a can and I set it out on the ground, it's potential power until it's put into the engine and converted through the combustion process into forward motion with the drivetrain. It's just potential, man. Your firearm is just potential. The knowledge locked up in your brain is only potential. And in this space, we berate each other because we've clicked ourselves up into these little herds, these little flocks. And if we don't like something, it hurts us and it makes us feel bad. We're talking about war, martial craft, a martial art. No, I'm not bloodthirsty. I have no desire whatsoever to be involved in violence. In fact, if you follow us, you see most of what we talk about is how to stay out of violence. But if you need to have a pretty good plan on how to deal with it and the aftermath of it if need be to protect you and your loved ones or anybody else that you're sworn to protect. The word educate comes from the Latin word educo. Cool story about this. So I'm almost 50. When I was maybe about 10 years old, if my dad sees this, I think he'll appreciate it. My dad took me to see a minister. My dad was a pastor, so I was often involved in church activities. And I had to have been about 10 years old. So this is 40-ish years ago. We're in another state. We're in Omaha, Nebraska, and we're at some night service. And I hated this shit as a kid, but I had to go. So I'm at a night service, and the preacher, his name was Rick. And Rick is talking, and Rick studied ancient Roman history. He studied a lot of the history of war around the time of Christ. And he said this verbatim. He talked about the word educo. And I've remembered this for 40 years. Educo means I draw out. It means to draw out. You draw out the truth. If I am educating, or you are educating yourself, your job is to draw out the truth, to draw out what needs to be done. And if somebody needs to tell you lovingly, hey man, you got to lose some weight. Hey man, you got to make some lifestyle changes. If you really care about this shit, if you really care about winning in violence, shouldn't you be fit to fight? If you really care about winning in violence, shouldn't you care enough to have a physical body that's capable of carrying on battle with another human? Because that is indeed what we are training when we're going to all of these pistol and rifle and shotgun classes or force on force classes. Shouldn't I be capable of chest compressions for a minute at a time to keep my loved one or somebody I'm sworn to protect or a stranger that I decide to help to keep them alive? Shouldn't I have gas in the gas tank? And if that hurts me to hear that I might need to make some lifestyle changes, is that on me or is that on them? Sounds like that's a me problem and not a them problem. Because you know what? It takes a lot of love to tell that to somebody. It's easy to placate. It's easy to lie. It's easy. Have you ever lied? I've lied. I've definitely lied in my life. I've looked straight at people I love and have told them a lie, either to cover my own ass like a coward or to protect them, which still means I'm covering my own ass. It's easy to lie. It is not easy to tell the truth. In addition to that, it's not always easy to tell the truth and not be a dickhead. So you have to have some rapport with somebody. Now, we can challenge people lovingly. Hey man, I think you can do better. I believe in you. I know that you want better and I'm here to help you. And that's one way. I don't know every situation, every person, and this isn't just about getting in better physical shape. This community of people, we click up and we decide that this guru or that guru, as I said, has got the way. Well, Can your guru fight? My friend Paul Sharp, for example, this is not a new concept, but Paul for 20, 30 years has been pushing this multidisciplinary approach. Really, he's one of the first guys in this modern time that I think has really created this in the civilian space outside of the military and really kind of done it in a way that he lives it. There was a time, and I don't know what he could do now, but Paul could run a 6-minute mile or below. He could deadlift 600 pounds and he could squat 600 pounds. So think about that. I got to be strong enough to pick all that weight up and fast enough to run a 6-minute or below mile. And he could shoot, and he could fight, and he can frickin' grill a steak and hang out and have a good time, right? He's not a lunatic. He's a good dude, and he reads and educates himself. I tell you this because you don't have to be just like this person, but if I become so linear where my whole thing is a really fast draw stroke, that's great. Till a guy like my friend Z Durham puts his hands on you. You ain't getting a chance, right? Or a guy like Rob Wilson puts his hands on you. Frickin' monster. He eats steaks as big as my head, Rob. He's like frickin' 9 feet tall, 400 pounds of muscle. I'm just kidding. Rob come out with a new book that you guys got to check out too. It's called The Check Engine Light. Look at that. Don't we want more for ourselves? The founders of this country were imperfect men. Sometimes we read or recite the things that they said. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And they say, wait a frickin' second. These dirtbags had slaves. They sure did, man. They saw the world completely different. And a quick aside on that, if you'd love to study history, you can look at the colonies were one of the lowest recipients of the Atlantic slave trade in the entire time, one of the lowest percentage-wise. Brazil, numero uno, right? The countries through the Caribbean, the little states through the Caribbean, one of the biggest as well. It's not diminishing the crime or the sin against mankind. It's saying if you're going to point fingers, point them through a clear lens and not your smeared lens of lies. These men talked and said things like, we hold these truths to be self-evident, meaning I don't need to read it. I don't need to be told it. You know this shit as a human being, that all men are created equal. Well, if that's true, then you have stratified yourself up or down the totem pole. You have put yourself higher or lower. Yes, your station as you're born into this life dictates a lot, right? I was born in a certain place in a certain time. Hell, we're lucky to be alive. Yeah, we got some bullshit. We got crummy government stuff. We got things like COVID, crummy government stuff. But you know what else we have? I have friends that have had heart attacks and they're kicking and living and breathing. I've had friends that have had limbs lost and they are running and doing marathons, right? So we have some amazing stuff. Diseases that used to kill people in days, now we're cured from in days, right? So modern times, the fact that you and I can communicate anywhere on the planet through these devices is magical. Don't waste it. Don't involve yourself in needless bullshit controversy. So you shoot one gun, he shoots another. Hey, guess what? If you shoot the SIG 320, God bless you, I don't care. If you love this gun guy, that's cool. But if you're a dickhead to anybody I love, or if you're a dickhead to a stranger that I don't know for no good reason, I will judge you harshly, because we must be judged by our deeds. It's easy to have words, but our deeds are what matter. There are people in this space that have big old followings, and they talk about Jesus, and they steal from people. I know these people. There are people in this space that talk about honor, and they lie, and they cheat. There are people in this space that wear the American flag on their sleeve or over their heart. They fly that thing proud, and they're scumbags defrauding their followers, their customers, their subscribers. Be very cautious of who you follow. And you've seen some people as of late that it's come out. Now, I haven't told you guys any serious lies about my past or who I am or anything like that. In fact, I don't think I've ever lied to you in any of these videos. But what I'm saying is we all fall short, man. We've all messed up. We've all sped. We've all touched our phone when we're behind the wheel. We've all thought something we shouldn't have thought. The big scheme of things is, what is your overarching goal? My buddy Vern Patterson likes to always say, what's the desired end state? Where are we trying to be at the end of this day, at the end of this week, month, quarter, year, or life? My friend Super Dave, who's fighting for his life right now, is a tough man. He's a tough man to be friends with. He's a tough man to know because he's really a hard dude that's so focused by his life's work. But looking at that and now seeing the people coming out of the woodwork that see that he's fighting tells you and shows you the impact. Deeds, not words. People will say, that dude is a hard man, but he changed the way I thought about, or he fixed this problem, or he really helped this person, or he squared away my team, or the stuff he taught me saved my life, or the stuff he taught me saved my friend's life, or my team's life, or my unit's life. Deeds, not words. Facta non verba. In fact, that's so important to me, we put it on a shirt. Not because I live it, but I need to be reminded of it every day. What we do matters. Is what you want to do involve yourself in just needless bullshit on the internet talking about gun drama, which is no effing different than a bunch of high school kids? Did you see what she or he did or was wearing or who they talked to? Don't be about that. Elevate yourself. Elevate yourself. We live in a place that, regardless of the problems that we have, is indeed the best course of action for the earth, for freedom. Reagan said it. I know some of you don't like him. He was imperfect. Want to know why? Because he was human. You look at how many people still immigrate here and who we allow, it's by far greater than many other countries combined. Look it up if you don't believe me. People can say this country or that country's better. Well, why are people not going there? It's because here we still have this spark, this glimmer, this hope of liberty. And it lives in you. It lives in you, and it lives in the people that you pass it on to. Don't be mired down by bullshit. Don't buy into trash. Don't buy into the drama that feeds you like some stupid daytime bullcrap talk TV show. It does nothing to move the needle. And at the end of your days, are those your deeds? Engaging in nonsense? You live but once, my friends. Be well. Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them. I'd love to see you at class.carrytrainer.com. Shameless plug. We own Ignis Lux Coffee. Ignis Lux is Latin for firelight. If you've noticed listening to me, I like fun words. I like some Latin words. I like some Greek words. They're different. Different to us compared to our English language. They mean things. Firelight talks about this fire that burns in us. And when I thought about the name of this brand, we roast this in-house. I actually stand in front of the roaster. Bennett stands in front of the roaster roasting this stuff. It made me think of the brush fires that were lit across the colonies as the people living here decided, you know what, we've had enough. That still burns in here. Check out Ignis Lux Coffee, but more importantly, don't involve yourself in nonsense. Fight on, friends. Fight on.